So today I'm doing a spoiler-free review for Defiant, which is the conclusion to the Skyward Quartet. I normally don't do dedicated videos for spoiler-free reviews because that's what reading vlogs are, and the dedicated videos are spoiler-filled chats, but with this being an arc, I wanted to get the review out before the book is officially published, and since it's not been officially published, spoiler-free is the way to go. So we're doing spoiler-free for this video, and then after the book is officially out, I'll have other booktubers on and we'll do a spoiler-filled discussion. I loved Skyward so much when I read it, and then Starsight I enjoyed quite a bit. Sightonic didn't. And then, so I was pretty nervous about Defiant. I was pretty worried because it had gone a bit on a slope for me in the worst sense possible, but Defiant was so good. It brings us back to the roots of what the story was. It brings us back to the companionship and the friendships that we've made, and back to the core mission that the side quests were gearing up for, or rather equipping Spensa for. So we're back to that core set piece and back to those core relationships, but with extreme changes in Spensa the person. She now has gained a lot of experience and abilities. She's gained a lot of experiences, but she's also changed drastically in these 3 books. So now she's back to this old setting again, back to the old mission, which is essentially to save humanity, but she is a different person. Her original goals, her original values, her original thoughts are now conflicting with a lot of how she's changed over this time. So in book 1, Spensa is a cadet ready to become a legend, ready to become a hero, ready to become like one of the heroes of her stories, as well as redeem her family name. But then over the course of these 3 books, she gains a lot of experience as well as relationships with people outside of her immediate sphere. And because of that, when she returns home in book 4, she has a really different perspective on war, she has a really different perspective on combat, and she has a really different value for lives. All lives. So in the beginning of the book, Spensa returns home and returns back to her relationships that she had developed in previous books, and she just doesn't feel like she fits anymore. Her friends have moved on, life has continued, they've developed relationships, they've developed their own skills, they've grown just like she is, and she no longer feels like she fits. And boy, oh boy, is that relatable. I don't know if you know this about me, but one of the reasons why I love this quartet so much is because I relate to Spensa. From book 1, if you want to know what teenage Murphy was like, if you want to know 15, 16-year-old Murphy who has a whole bunch of baggage and handles it by pushing people away, putting up my walls, being gruff and tough and not letting people in, if you want to know teenage Murphy, read Skyward. Because Spensa is me. Her idealistic perspective, her love for stories, her excitement for side quests and adventures, and being able to get swept up in the idea and wonder of what happened in Sightonic, trying to keep this as spoiler-free as I can. But over and over again, I read Spensa and I'm like, there I am. There I am. And now in book 4, right away, I feel such a kinship to her again because I know the feeling of developing a found family and a home and a place where I found a sense of belonging, and then leaving, going off on my own adventures, worthy adventures, good things that was better for me, things that needed to happen. And then I return and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't fit here anymore. I don't fit because I've changed, and I don't fit because your lives have moved when I've been absent. And I think we can all relate to that. I think that's a pretty universal human experience of returning back to a place that was once home and it doesn't quite feel like home anymore. And Brandon nailed that experience and that feeling and that not quite belonging, as well as still delivering on that companionship that we've built up to this point. The friends who would do anything for each other, the friends who will say, then we'll cut a new piece out, you belong here. But then there's also the battle side of it, and there's also like the glory of war side of it that Spensa just doesn't feel the same way about anymore. All of a sudden, being in combat looks really different for her because she doesn't feel the same way about combat and about the significance of downing ships that she did once before. I think this quote, and I'm still keeping this spoiler free, don't worry, I think this quote really sums up a lot. I was the one who always bragged about killing, about the way of the warrior, all that nonsense. I think that perfectly sums up the distance between Spensa of book 1 and Spensa at the beginning of book 4. And by the way, if you feel like you have a lot of distance from Spensa in those books because it's been a minute since you read them, I think Sanderson did a really good job of introducing plot points to the reader within the first 50 pages in a cohesive way, not in a way that felt info dumpy. He reminded the reader well of the important things that we need to know. So if you remember the books, but some of the details are a little bit fuzzy, I wouldn't worry about it. The book does a good job of reminding you of what you need. Everything that I've talked to you about has been within the first 50 pages of the book. We haven't even actually gotten off the ground yet, but I was really impacted by Spensa's PTSD and realizing that I'm not the same person anymore at all, and nothing feels right anymore. It's just like, that just really got me. But anyway, moving forward, and not getting into specifics beyond that, that's probably the most I'm gonna get into things. This book does get a little bit darker than the other 3 did. Spensa is put in really difficult positions, and there's some stuff that gets confronted in this book that are not easy to digest and that will prompt the reader to think too. Also, that comedic balance that came with Mbot and Doomslug are still here, but significantly less. Especially in the first half of the book, this is a Spensa book. We're really unpacking Spensa. In the second half of the book, the action picks up. We get different perspectives from people that we know and love, and that was so thrilling. If you enjoy the aerial combat of this series, you will not be disappointed with the conclusion. And if you love the characters of this series, I don't think you'll be disappointed in this book either. And if you love that emphasis on friendship and on camaraderie and on loyalty and family that can't be moved, I think you won't be disappointed. This book really brings you back to the roots of the beginning of the story while still having strong emphasis on the changes that have come through the adventures that we had along the way. And it does a good job of taking all of the broadening that we did in the other books and bringing it all together and making it all, showing how it was all relevant to get us to the point that we ended up being at in the end. This book really deals with themes of finding a sense of belonging, of being so wrapped up in your own things that you're dealing with, valid things, that you miss out on paying attention to how you're affecting other people. It focuses heavily on trust between one another, relying on one another, allowing room for other people to come in and be a part of your story. It focuses on self-identity, on reckoning with loss and the role it plays in life. 3 separate times while reading this book, I burst into tears. The emotional punches landed for me. I don't know how you'll feel about it, naturally, because I'm not you, but I personally, on a very personal level, connect with Spensa, and throughout each piece of her journey, even Cytonic, which I didn't really enjoy, throughout each piece of her journey, I have emotionally connected with her as a character on a very deep level. So maybe the emotional punches hit me harder than they will you, but I can tell you that they hit me hard, and I was so emotionally invested in the small character things that Spensa was going through, as well as in this large scale plot things, especially in the second half, or especially in the last quarter when, you know, it's Brandon Sanderson, so the action really picks up. The way it was done, the way the action was handled at the very end was thrilling. It was fast, it was exciting, and it was emotionally charged because of all the characters heavily involved and spotlighted throughout it. My goodness, I cannot wait for the spoiler chat that's gonna come in the next few weeks, because I need to unpack some of the things that happened here. If you enjoyed books 1 and 2 of the Skyward Quartet, I think you will be very satisfied with the conclusion. There are some things that are significantly different, like Spence's state of mind and her personal journey, less of an emphasis on certain characters. And I will say that my biggest complaint about this book is that it doesn't feel completed. There is a spin-off series that's coming, and I'm thrilled because I'm so happy to have more time with these characters in this space. I don't know what the spin-off is going to look like. I don't know who we're following. I don't know. But more of this is great. However, there are certain parts of history that I thought we were going to learn by the end of this quartet. More information on certain characters that I expected to get that I thought would happen by the end of this quartet, and just the plot in general. It feels like it's not the conclusion, if that makes sense. I kind of feel the same way at the end of this book as I did at the end of The Lost Metal, which was, yes, you finished the story, technically, but it feels very much still wide open because there's another branch of the story yet to be told, and so you can't answer all the questions because, you know, you gotta answer them later. That's how this one felt, where it's like, I loved this book. I loved it so much. I'm so happy to have read it, but does it feel fully satisfying as a conclusion to a series? No, because that door is left wide open for the next installment, which means that a lot of the answers that we maybe would have expected to get here, you know, we didn't. So if you, like me, were very nervous about Defiant, I would like to ease your discomfort a little bit because I personally loved this book. So there you go, that's my spoiler-free thoughts about Defiant. If you were kind of on the fence about if you wanted to proceed with the series, hopefully I gave you an idea. If you think that you would like it based on how you felt about the previous 3 installments, let me know if you plan on reading it, and if you do, if you plan on reading it right as soon as it's released, or if you're going to give it a little bit of time. We've had a lot of Sanderson recently, but I'm so happy that over the last 12 months we've had 6 Sanderson books, if I've counted correctly, and I'm so happy to end on this note because I had a wonderful time. Anyway, please do chat with me more about it in the comments. I post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on this channel, Mondays and Fridays on the manga channel, which is always linked in the description. I'll see you again soon. Bye.